Hola, yo soy Karim Sabat de PowerMetal.cl, el podcast live, y los dejo invitados a disfrutar ahora de la entrevista al gran Gene Hoglan por Sebastián Mapache Aguirre.
You have been playing since 1986, maybe, if I'm right, and you have played in a lot of different bands and a lot of different styles. Testament, Death, Fear Factory, also with David Townsend, and a lot of bands and a lot of styles. I want to ask you, in which style do you feel more comfortable, and what type of music have you been? If it has been more challenging to play in your career?
Well, that's a real good question. And I would say the style of music that I'm most comfortable playing is like my style. I like to feel like without sounding like really big-headed, I am my own style. Like I try not to sound like any other of the established musicians out there. I try to bring something new to the table with every band I was in. Dark Angel was my first band. I was 18 years old when we did Darkness Descends, and when we released Darkness Descends, I was a teenager. And so I've tried to evolve my style over the years and make myself very adaptable to each project that I'm in. Like, say, right after Dark Angel, I started up with Death, and their Death's music and drum approach should not have been like Dark Angel. And, you know, there's some certain elements of it, the speedy double bass kind of thing, but, you know, Death had a little more technical approach that we were trying. And so, and then after that, after Death came Strapping Young Lad, and you know, that was a different approach as well. And the Testament album Demonic that I did, that was a totally different approach. And then all the other things I've done over the course of history, I've just tried to alter my approach and be a chameleon-like drummer. Like, you know, if this project needs just psychotic, brutal stuff, I can do that. If this other project needs some tasty, like real drumming, I try to be that kind of drummer, you know, a very all-encompassing, well-rounded drummer. That's the most important thing to me, is being well-rounded, you know, like I can approach any style and try to play any style convincingly. That's kind of what's most important to me. So, but I love all the styles of music I've got to play with. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you heard anything you're playing, you can hear, oh, that's Gene Hoglan playing in Fear Factory. Okay, that's Gene Hoglan playing on Death, and it's always Gene Hoglan, but playing the sound of the band that he's playing. It's not Gene Hoglan always the same thing on the different bands.
That is very cool. Thank you. If that is the case, then I will take it, because that's what I do try to do. So thank you very much.
So what has been the more challenging band of your career? Where have you been feeling that I need to get an extra step of my effort, of my technique, of something like that? You need to step up your game.
I think that something like that is me being me. Like the band, any band that I'm in, it doesn't matter if it's Strapping Young Lad or Death or whoever. I have to step up my game every single year. I have to improve. I can never just rest on, wow, man, you've got a, I don't know, 60 album career, lots of shows under your belt. You've done it all, Gene. So now you get to just relax and ride off into the sunset. Never. I will never feel that way. I intend to be doing this. I'm 56 years old right now. I feel like a kid, you know, and I intend to be doing this easily for another 20 years. No problem, you know, no problem. And not just something adorable like, oh, that guy's in his 70s and he's still playing drums. That's adorable. No, like, that guy's in his 70s and he's still bringing it. My God, that is my intent, and that is what I am going to do. So, you know, if that will be an inspiration for anybody, kick ass. But that is my thing. It's like I have to bring new to every project. I've got a project coming out in April that we can now finally start talking about, and it's an album for Bear McCreary. Look him up. It's a very metallic project, very, very heavy. But it runs the gamut. It does. He came to me because he's like, you're the only drummer I know that can do this style all the way over to this style. You are the man for this. Wait till people hear this record. It's going to blow your mind. That's some drumming on it like I've never done before. Okay. And some just music that is really, really killer. So keep your eyes open for that. Bear McCreary, The Singularity. And it's coming out while I'm on tour in the United States with Death Clock, another fun band. So it's a pretty busy next few months, I tell you.
Do you feel like you have some kind of band left that you want to play and you haven't yet?
There's always a style that I would love to tackle, you know, like, hey, Stevie Wonder, if you ever need a drummer, hit me up, you know, like that kind of thing. And of course, like, shoot, man, I know there's never going to be a Rush again, but to play with Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, I grew up on Rush, and I will take the Pepsi challenge playing Neil Peart with any drummer on the planet. I'd love to do a jam with Rush someday with the guys from Rush. I know I could never replace Neil Peart, but you know, if those guys are ever like, hey man, we got some show, we want to do some music again, just playing some cool stuff, I would do that in a minute. And I would love to do that. And I apply myself to every project I'm in. I can cover and chameleon any drummer that I've ever listened to, you know. So Neil Peart was my first original, like my first big technical influence. So there's an example, you know, like I would love to do that, man. I'll take the Pepsi challenge with my Rush playing with anybody but Neil Peart, you know. I tell you,
I can imagine Rush sounding with Gene Hoglan on the drums. I'm a big Rush fan, but I can't even think how that would sound.
It would sound like Neil Peart as much as I could, you know. It would sound as true to their music that they want it to sound like. It would sound exactly to a T like that. Like the Rush fans that know their music and are very familiar with it, people would come out of that going, wow, that was well represented. You know, that drummer cared, you know. That drummer wasn't throwing in his own licks on stuff. He was doing Neil Peart just, you know, every single lick, you know. So there you go.
Thank you. Starting to talk with your career on death, do you have some memories from Chuck that have marked your experience, your life as a musician and as a person?
Definitely. You know, it's like when Chuck and I first started working together, the only band I had ever really played with, you know, a couple of small bands along the way, but the only band of note that I had been with at that time was Dark Angel. And we were all teenagers together. We were all friends and pals, and you know, we butt heads like musicians do, like friends do. Working with Chuck was my first outside where I was kind of a, you know, like, I guess like a session musician. You know, he brought me in like to do the album. At that point, it wasn't like, hey, you know, join my band. It was like, I got an album's worth of material that I got to get out. And we didn't talk about the future or anything. It's like, I'm coming in, let me play on your record. Sure, no problem. It was after the album was getting completed when he started to reach out to Stevie D and myself about like, hey man, we're getting offered some shows. Might you guys be interested in playing shows? And that's where the band sort of evolved from, but or the new lineup of Death evolved from. And that's one thing that working with Chuck and any new musician taught me how to, like, take a moment, take a step back. You are in Dark Angel. I was kind of in charge of everything. I wrote the majority of the material. I wrote the lyrics. I wrote the vocals. I did the interviews. I handled most of the business. That was pretty much my project. And with Death, I didn't have to do any of that, you know? So I got to concentrate on being a drummer. And I also got to learn how to converse musically with other musicians, how to, take somebody else's idea and then like form that into a cohesive idea where both of us are on the same page. That's something I learned with Chuck. I didn't know how to do that before, but that was it led to when I started working with Devin Townsend, and then started working with Testament, and started working with all the other bands I've worked with. A lot of the templates that were laid down with Chuck were able to come to the foreground, where I was okay not being the alpha male in the band, Chuck, the leader. I'm happy to be a good support artist for that. Player. Yeah, team player. Devin Townsend, the team leader, happy to be a team player there. Brendan Small with Deathclaw, happy to be the team player there. We got a good little working relationship there. So that's how that goes. So I learned a lot from those initial days with Chuck. Absolutely.
So you spoke about Devin Townsend. How's working with Devin Townsend? Everyone has an image of Devin as so maybe weird, crazy. But how is he on the recording, on the process of writing an album?
Well, I understand where people would think Devin is crazy, but he's definitely not crazy. He's a very focused, hardworking musician who has a focus on music, and that's Devin. God, I can remember the first time we jammed together. We're in a rehearsal studio in California, and we wrote the song "Oh My Fucking God" in our very first rehearsal together. And I just remember Devin bouncing off the walls, like literally, physically, like playing guitar, kicking off the wall, going over to that wall, kicking off that wall, and just like. And that was so exciting. It was great. It was his energy was infectious. But Devin is far from crazy. He's not crazy. I mean, he's a very focused, hardworking musician who has a wonderful work ethic, and he's a very sedate, sober individual who next level minds sometimes are treated as crazy. But no, man, he's just got a fantastic work ethic, and he just knows how to get music out there to people. He's got a very fruitful mind for music, and he's able to cogently express that. That's a pretty magical way to be. And Devin, I couldn't even count how many albums Devin has out now, but there's a million of them, and they're all great. He's got a very fruitful mind for music. Absolutely. So there you go.
Yeah. Talking about your presentation here in Chile in a few days or months, what can the Chilean audience expect from Death to All?
Well, Death to All tries to bring a very magical, memorable night of metal for all of Death's fans, all of Chuck's fans, all of fans of us as musicians, Stevie D and Bobby and myself. We try to bring a really exciting night, and we do every single night. You do not want to miss this show. I'll tell anybody that. Death to All will bring out so many wonderful memories for those who got to see the band back in the day, or got to see Death back in the day, who thought they might never get to see Death ever again. This is pretty much the next best thing to it, and for those who grew up loving Death but never got to see Death, too young to go to gigs back then, and maybe Death only played South America one time back in 1998 kind of thing.
Yeah.
For those kids that are younger, the younger generation, they get to come out and pretty much see Death as Death should be. Different name, different vocalist, but same music played well. It's a very memorable night, and you will be very, very happy at the end of the night when you come out and see Death to All. Any night of the tour, that is what's going to happen for you. Absolutely.
Okay, thanks for your time. And we have to end this interview right now. And please, can you send a message to all the Chilean fans and invite them to the show, please?
To all Chilean fans of Death and Death to All, I'm Gene Hoglan, and let me tell you, you are definitely going to want to catch this show, the Metal Beer Festival in Santiago. Santiago is the metal capital of the world. Death to All plays some of the most metallic metal of all time, put out by one of the most metallic bands of all time. You don't want to miss the show. Come on out and have yourself a fantastic, amazing evening of metal, memories, and metal and some beer. There you go.
Okay, Gene, thanks for your time.